Moving on now, we're going to the first of our research hospital sessions, this one focused on career development. So I'd like to welcome our chair, Dr Polly Livermore, who's our clinical academic programme lead for nursing and allied health professionals, to chair this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. My name is Polly Livermore. I'm the clinical academic programme lead for health professionals outside medicine at Great Ormond Street Hospital. I'm also a rheumatology matron, and I'm one of the co-leads for the BRC junior faculty. Welcome to the Research Hospital Careers Development session, highlighting some of the amazing talent within our healthcare professionals, nurses and healthcare scientists. And it also serves to highlight the importance of working with children, young people, their parents, siblings and the public. So it gives me great pleasure to chair this session. And first I'd like to introduce you to Dipti Chu, who is a physiotherapist in the neurodisability section services at GOSH, working with children with cerebral palsy, and who is applying for the NIHR Clinical Doctoral Research Fellowship this year. So over to you, Dipti.
Hello, I'm Dipti Chugh. I am a physiotherapist in the neurodisability services. Today, I'm going to present a summary of the patient and public involvement work that I did to develop a research proposal for the NIHR Clinical Doctoral Research Fellowship, exploring the outcomes of selective dorsal rhizotomy. Just to give you a brief background, I work with children with cerebral palsy who undergo an irreversible neurosurgical procedure called selective dorsal rhizotomy, commonly known as SDR. This procedure is used to reduce stiffness in the legs and to help improve function in children with cerebral palsy. A prolonged period of rehabilitation for at least 2 years is needed after this procedure to get the best outcomes, and this requires a huge commitment from families and their local physiotherapists. Although it is clear that SDR reduces spasticity or stiffness, there are still a lot of questions around the outcomes of SDR from families as well as clinicians. So before I started developing my research question, I wanted to find out what families and clinicians wanted to know, what were their questions and their research priorities. I also wanted to explore what outcomes matter to families and wanted to get their views on the relevance of the assessments that I was hoping to use in the proposed study. I was successful in getting the NIHR GOSH BRC PPI grant to support the cost of conducting PPI activities, and I invited different groups to take part, including children and young people with cerebral palsy who had undergone SDR, parents and carers, and physiotherapists with experience of working with this population. I planned several PPI activities at different stages. The first one was a parent and caregiver survey. There was a lot of interest and around 70 families responded to the questionnaire. A short survey was also conducted by 34 physiotherapists. The responses from these two surveys were then combined and the key points were further explored in a focus group with parents, which was conducted face-to-face just before the first lockdown. Finally, one-to-one interviews with children and young people were carried out to get their views on how they felt about coming to the hospital for assessments. From these PPI activities, key research priorities were identified. Families and clinicians wanted to know what was the amount of physiotherapy that was required after the SDR procedure to get the best outcomes. They were also interested in knowing long-term outcomes of SDR and what was expected at different stages after this procedure. These are reflected in these quotes from parents here. One parent said, "What do you expect at 5 years? What do you expect at 10 years? How does it keep on improving? That's what we would like to know." And another parent asked, "The most important question for us is, has she achieved what she should have achieved? Is this her potential?" With regards to the assessments and outcomes that parents express that some of the questionnaires and assessments that are used in clinical practice are not always meaningful to them. And they felt that they failed to capture their individual child's characteristics and family circumstances. Some families liked data, numbers and figures on how things have changed from before to after surgery, and to others it didn't mean much. And they expressed that it doesn't always show what their child is capable of doing. Families also give suggestions on the types of resources that would be useful for parents and children, and where and how to share these research findings. Based on the feedback from the PPI group, I've designed a mixed method study to evaluate the long-term outcomes of SDR and have included a qualitative aspect to explore individual families' experiences alongside the quantitative outcomes. Following on from the PPI, I was successful in getting the BRC ORCID internship and the NHR pre-doctoral clinical academic fellowship to develop the research proposal further. And I will be applying for the clinical doctoral research fellowship later this year. Since the PPI, there has been ongoing support from 4 parents and 2 young people who have also agreed to be part of the advisory group should the application be successful. Lastly, I would like to say thank you to everyone who contributed and supported me in this process. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dipti. Really great presentation. Next, we have Fan Cheng, who's been working as a clinical pediatric pharmacist at GOSH for 8 years and has recently been awarded the NIHR Clinical Doctoral Research Fellowship. Her project work involves improving medicine safety for children using pharmacometric models. Over to you, Fan.
Thank you, Polly. Hello, everyone. My name is Fan Cheng. I am an NIHR CDRH Research Fellow and also a clinical pharmacist at Great Ormond Street Hospital. This is me in action with my medical team. When I was working with patients with immunodeficiency who hasn't got any immune system to fight infection, I have this research idea of optimizing the doses for use of antifungals in children. And I was really lucky to get a ICH GOSH BRC internship to allow me to have the time to talk to patients and parents about the experience of using antifungals. And one of my parents agreed to share the story with you. So this is Ali. He's just 3 years old when this picture was taken. He's literally received chemotherapy for his bone marrow transplant and is playing the toys in his bed. His mom said that he had a breakthrough fungal infection based on the antifungal. The medicines that we normally give to children during the bone marrow transplant affected his kidneys and liver, which we are finding the right dose for him. I was worried. In adults, when we're using medicines, we always stress to have evidence-based practice. However, in children, up to 97% of medicine use are unlicensed. That means there are no clinical trials that actually validate the efficacy or safety of using these medicines in children. Currently, the doses we use are based on adult data. However, children are not small adults. The way they handle medicines are very different to adults because they are growing every day exponentially, and also the way they handle medicines differs at each different age stages, growth stages. The result of not finding the right dose resulting in suboptimal dosing, one of which was an effect in efficacy, which means that they have got breakthrough fungal infection for patient A, while it's already on antifungal that's supposed to prevent and treat fungal infections. Another downside of not finding the right dose for him is they may affect other organs' function and resulting in toxicity, just like what patient A has. On top of all this, patients undergoing bone marrow transplant also at a high risk of fungal infection and have a 48% of death rate when they contract a fungal disease. That's why patient A's mom has got all the rights to worry about him. So the aims of my project is to retrospectively analyze routine blood results using mathematical models called pharmacometric models. In my first year, I'd like to use this model to find age-specific azole antifungal doses, a type of antifungals that we use commonly in children undergoing bone marrow transplant. In my second year, I'd like to use this model to further understand how these azole antifungals affect the medicines that we normally give to children undergoing bone marrow transplants. And finally, I'd like to apply the same technique to investigate the doses of subcutaneous immunoglobulin that we routinely give to children with antibody deficiency. The parents' advisory group has already helped me to review my project design, and the young person's advisory group has already given me excellent ideas how I should disseminate the results from this project. Throughout my project, I will seek the expert opinion on the findings of my project. The translational impact of my project is to reduce harm and death, to increase dosing precision and standardized prescribing, and increase the effective use of resources and generate more evidence for children in using medicines. So they can actually help children like patient A to achieve to near to normal life. I'd like to thank my funders, and especially thanks to the patients and parents and the medical team that took the time to talk to me and help me shape my project. Thank you.
That's fabulous work, Fan. Thank you very much for sharing that with us today. So last but not least, we have Jenny Chandler, who is a BRC Catalyst Fellow, and she'll be talking about how patient and public engagement drives her research into kidney disease. Over to you, Jenny.
So thank you, Polly. Hello, everybody. So my name is Dr. Jenny Chandler, and I'm a postdoctoral BRC Catalyst Fellow working in the Kidney Development and Disease Group, headed by Professor David Long. So in the Kidney Development and Disease Group at GOSH ICH, what we're interested in doing is tackling the 65,000 people that are currently living in the UK with end-stage kidney disease, and in particular, the 1,000 children. Now, all of these people require lifelong renal replacement, being dialysis while awaiting kidney transplant. And this is a huge economical and social burden. So what we're really focused on is working at the boundary of clinical and basic science, working with both patients and clinicians at Great Ormond Street Hospital to identify novel therapeutic treatments that we can use to prevent this kidney failure and alleviate the burden of dialysis and kidney transplant. And we do this with ongoing feedback between our patients and also the public. So in my work, I've done this in three main ways. Firstly, through communication. So we work with the BRC to publicize any significant research findings that we have to disseminate them across our research community. Secondly, with engagement. So we plan engagement activities like the BRC Family Fun Day, where we can talk to the public as well as patient and families to really talk about why our research is so important. And finally, through listening. So we work with patient-driven focus groups to really hear from them what they would prioritize to be the key focuses of our kidney research. And it's with this bi-directional feedback that we've come to have three main aims in our research. And these are improving how we get therapies into the kidney, understanding the pathways of damage in a human system, and finally, the validation of novel therapies. And the BRC has funded several projects which align with these aims. So we've had some new projects funding, which has been working to develop nanocomplexes that can specifically target the kidney cells that are damaged in disease. And through this funding, we've actually found a new peptide which significantly improves cellular uptake in these cells. We're also working with over 70 AAV serotypes to screen which serotype is best at targeting the kidney cells. And with these kinds of projects, we'll be able to validate better delivery methods to better deliver therapies to the kidney. And finally, as part of my fellowship funding, alongside other research going on in our group, we're working to establish human organoids so that we can better understand the human pathways of disease and identify more relevant genetic therapies. And this BRC support has had significant impact, both to the patients and also to me personally. With regard to the patients, the preliminary data that we got through our nanocomplex work has actually now secured a translational research accelerator grant from GOSH LifeArc. So we're going to push this work forward in a proof of concept in vivo trial. And personally for me, I've significantly improved my network. I've got some really new exciting collaborations, and I now also sit on the BRC Junior Committee. The BRC has also helped me with skills such as interview preparation, improving my lay communications, and of course, organisation of engagement events. And finally, career progression. So the BRC funding that I got as the new projects grant back in 2020 was actually my first independent funding. And since then, I've been able to go on and secure a BRC Catalyst Fellowship. And then more recently, late last year, an external Kidney Research UK Intermediate Fellowship to really carry on this research over the next sort of 5 years. So for me, the BRC's focus on early career researchers has really been fundamental to my career progression. So this just leaves me to say a really big thank you to all of the patients and families that have been involved in our group's work, as well as the Kidney Development and Disease Group, and in particular, Professor David Long. And then our collaborators, Professor Stephen Hart and Professor Paul Gisson at GOSH ICH, as well as Professor Lezek in Sydney. And then finally, just to say a huge thank you to the GOSH BRC, both for the funding and their ongoing support. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny. A superb example of how patients and families are very much at the heart of all that we do. So just to say thank you very much to all of our speakers in this session. I think we've probably caught up time now, but I will hand back to Laura. Thanks, Laura.
That's great. Thank you so much. That was a really nice session. We haven't had questions on Slido, so that's why we haven't announced any. Do remember to put them on there if there's anything you'd like to ask us. But if not, I'm now going to move on and ask the team to play a video that we developed. This was developed by Kate Hazelhurst and Katie Payne. So this is part of the Great Ormond Street Hospital Research Communications and Research Hospital team. It's a video really to highlight what we mean by a research hospital.
At GOSH, the care we offer is already making a real difference to seriously ill children and young people. And that's thanks to you, our incredible staff. But we can never stand still. We know that when patients are treated in hospitals that do lots of research, they are more likely to have better experiences and have healthier outcomes, whether they're directly involved in research or not. So what does a research hospital look like? We see GOSH as a place where our expertise, patient groups and facilities can make amazing discoveries happen. A place where people are always asking questions, listening and learning. A place where we always involve patients and families in our decision-making. A place where we can move new treatments and findings into practice quickly and safely. This is why we've put research at the heart of our 5-year strategy, making sure it's a part of everything we do and central to every decision we make. Now, more than ever, you can play a vital role in making this happen. It might be as simple as speaking up when you see an opportunity, talking to a patient or family about joining a study, or keeping the hospital running smoothly and safely so that high-quality research can take place. Or it could mean becoming a researcher yourself, because great ideas can come from anywhere and anyone. All it takes is seeing the potential to do things in a better way. Not sure where to begin? Our friendly research and innovation team are on hand to offer you their expert advice and support. With your help, we can develop treatments and cures that offer children and young people a brighter future. We are GOSH, and this is what a research hospital looks like.